Howdy, guys. Welcome back to the RedAss podcast. Today is Tuesday, April 2nd. No fools going on today.
No, no, not at all. Although today is my daughter's 19th birthday. And
Awesome.
so that means when we were going to the hospital, it was April 1st. And so when I called my parents, because of my track record of being an absolute shithead, they thought I was kidding. So fun little fact for you.
There you go. Well, I'm Rob White, fighting Texas Aggie class of 14.
And I'm Roy May, fighting Texas Aggie class of 2015.
Yeah. And we had ourselves a fun little sports weekend for multiple reasons. Major League Baseball's back, rocking and rolling. Both diamonds were going on. We had NCAA stuff going on for the
No,
women's basketball tournament, men's, the whole shebang.
swimming, diving, track and field. I mean, Major League Baseball may as well not exist given their blackout rules. So
Correct. That is just something that to this day I will never understand. Like I get you're trying to get people in the ballpark, but then making zero visibility for the region. Like the fact that I'm in BCS and it is so incredibly difficult to try to watch the Astros, even though after the first four results, I was like, I'm not too sure about that. I turn
yeah, I mean,
around
I'm
and
good. I'm good with it. Not well, then they turn around yesterday and they throw a no hitter. So
right. It's like the duality of baseball. It's like you're going to get swept in four games from the team that you've literally been a boogeyman for the last, 7 years. And then you're going to turn around and throw a no hitter in this kid's first start for the year. I mean, good on him, but it's crazy in this duality of baseball, man.
it's yeah, it's just the Astros playing at home. You generally know what you're going to get. So when you don't get crap, it's nice.
All right. Well, here's a fun fact. So for any Astros executives that may be listening to our podcast, I am undefeated 8-0 in my last 8 trips to Minute Maid Park. So if you want to slip me some season tickets or something for some good luck,
Just
yeah,
just
I
to
got
write,
zero problem being a JP. I got a zero problem being any of those guys. I will be a good luck
just to
charm.
right the ship, right? You'll
Yeah.
sacrifice and right the ship.
Yeah. It's fine by me.
That's funny.
But hey, kind of wanted to touch on softball first since I had them pulled up here.
Yeah. So tough weekend for the ladies in Baton Rouge. Again, against no slouch LSU, which I believe is now fifth in the rankings.
Yes,
Um,
I think
and,
yeah, they moved up.
and we talked about that series going in. A real true tough road test against obviously a top 10 team. And really, again, not that you're looking for moral victories, but you just really didn't want to get swept. And games 1 and 2 were they were so tight, and it's just one of those like kind of hanging in the balance type games, and just unfortunately couldn't close it out. Game 3 got out of hand, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The Ags were able to jump on the Tigers, first 2 games, with Thursday and Friday, and just couldn't capitalize. And I was watching the games, and it reminded me a ton of, I think it was last year,
Hmm.
and it might have also been 3 years ago because we've been doing this for 4 years now. How long? I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, it reminds me of Aggie baseball, what we used to complain about, right?
Right.
Lobsters, lobsters,
Lobsters.
lobsters everywhere.
Yes. Despise lobsters. They taste great, but they're not great on the base paths. We don't like
Yeah,
them.
just a ton of Ags left on base, couldn't capitalize and bring them around. And against obviously a top tier team like LSU, when you have those opportunities, you really got to do everything you can to capitalize. And just for some reason, they weren't able to. It was frustrating just seeing all the Ags left out on the bases. Had some and this actually goes to both diamonds, some fielding errors that were some head scratchers. Uh,
Yeah. That was certainly something. I'm not just
well, and you can't,
uncharacteristic.
right, and baseball was able to overcome it. But when it comes to, Aina's playing a better team in LSU from what we know so far, right? It's a top 5 team now, so they're the better team. And when you're in that situation and on the road, the last thing you can do is give them extra opportunities because they've got a powerful lineup. And obviously we saw it. They ran out some pitchers that our hitters just couldn't figure out, which was like, it felt like Thursday and Friday they go out and they jump on LSU early, right? And you're excited, and they turn around and they kind of shut down LSU. And so it's that first inning score on the road, and then they don't respond. So you like the momentum, and then all of a sudden it felt like the LSU pitchers really settled in the circle, and we couldn't touch the ball.
Yeah.
And by no way am I insinuating that we were on cruise control, because that's not the case. It just
Mhm.
there's something not clicking. I think maybe with getting an early lead there, or maybe it's just it might be nerves because of being on the road at LSU. That's a great environment at LSU for softball. It is. I mean, they pack them in. They're loud. I mean, LSU fans are loud everywhere. They're loud when they're not at sporting events. So
You're right.
so just a tough series, but you've got Prairie View midweek, so just right the ship and remember how to win, kind of thing. And then you got Kentucky coming in, and Kentucky's at the bottom of the standings.
Right.
We're still, in baseball we still have an East and West, but softball has an uneven number of teams, so there are no divisions.
Right.
So we're still up near the top of the standings, and Kentucky's sitting at the bottom. They're 2-7 in conference. Our non-conference records look similar, but I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't looked through Kentucky's non-conference schedule, but I would assume that they probably didn't quite play the caliber we did. Just
Yeah,
because that's
doubtful.
like an Aggie tradition in softball is to make it tough and go out west. Um, I mean, it's possible they did. By all means, again, I didn't scour Kentucky's record by any means,
Sure.
or their schedule, but I know the caliber of opponents that that A&M played in non-conference. So this isn't an untested team by any means,
No.
but you get to come back home. You got the bottom dwellers right now in the conference coming in, and again, it's the SEC. Whether it's baseball or softball, you're not expecting a sweep. You never are. You just
No.
got to win series. Just win series. Go out and win the first game, and then you've got two to grab the series.
Yep.
So this is a get right week for Aggie softball, starting with tonight. With Prairie View coming in, and then following up in the weekend with Kentucky coming in. If their record holds serve to how they are, then you like your chances of winning the series.
Mm.
I we've got to find some more consistency. We were talking about this. We thought they were kind of turning the corner. We have got to find consistency in the circle outside of Emily Kennedy,
Right.
because we can't keep laying these 200 plus pitch weekends on her every weekend. So we've got to have somebody else step up, and it feels like they've just been doing it in spurts. Shaylee will come in and pitch well sometimes. Same with Emily Levitt. Same with Brooke Vestal. So the talent is there. It's just a matter of putting it together for an extended period of time, so we can give Emily time off, because
Yeah.
even softball pitchers get fatigued.
Right. And I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, when you're playing a diamond sport, that is probably one of the most important positions. You definitely need consistency at the pitching position. So within the circle, if we can get two, potentially three people who are all consistently putting out solid numbers, that's really going to go a long way. And that's definitely what we're going to need going forward as we continue to roll through this schedule.
Well, and what's funny is you go on the road to LSU, you get swept, and you move up in the RPI.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, that should tell you, like, this isn't a you burn it down and light the bar on fire and start freaking out kind of thing. It's, I mean, you went on the road and you got swept, two tight games, two really tight, go down. I mean, one of them was extra innings,
Right.
so you had them on the ropes in their own house. Game 3 just got out of hand, but again, you had an opportunity to at least take one, if not the series. And there's no shoulda, woulda, coulda. Again, no moral victories out of this.
Mhm.
But your RPI did go up, which is good, because heading into this week, I feel like it's not going to really matter your RPI, because I mean, unless you go out and have 4 run rules this week, which would be sweeping and run ruling an SEC team, which is bonkers.
Right.
Um, so your RPI will take a hit just because of your midweek game being against just kind of your standard midweek bring them in because they live close kind of game.
Right.
And then Kentucky's just not good in the RPI right now, which should reflect. I shouldn't have to look at their schedule. If even being 2-7, the SEC shouldn't kill your RPI.
Sorry about that. We had a quick little glitch, but go ahead.
There was a glitch in the matrix, if you will. But yeah, I mean, 2-7 in the SEC shouldn't necessarily destroy your RPI. So if Kentucky's RPI is low enough, then I don't have to look at their schedule to know that their non-conference was filled up with probably lesser talent than what we faced, quite
Sure.
frankly, because now we've been through the same 2-7. Yeah, so we've been through the same amount of conference games, I believe.
Yep.
So there's not much you can do for your RPI, but again, win series. It's the same in baseball. We just pound this drum. This is beating a dead horse, but we say it because it's true. We're not speaking this into existence. It's in
Yeah.
existence, so we speak of it. You've just got to win series. If you can go out and sweep Kentucky, hey, that'd be great, right? That's a great opportunity to grab really, any sweep is an extra game in the standings. Is how you
Right.
kind of look at it, right?
Yeah, it's
Because
a
you shouldn't ever
bonus.
expect to sweep a weekend in the SEC at either diamond.
Right.
So looking forward them to bounce back. I kind of like the Prairie Views coming in. Just get right,
Hmm.
beat up on them a little bit. Hopefully, you don't face a lot of adversity. Have one of those weird midweek kind of like Aggie baseball scene. Let's not recreate the Prairie View baseball midweek. Let's get out on the front foot, jump on them, and be done with them. Um,
Absolutely.
call it an early, 15 for team, farmers fight, call it a night after 5 innings and be done with it. And then moving over to baseball, and
Yeah.
I just kind of want to straight segue in a midweek game.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, let's talk about the midweek and then we'll go back to the weekend.
Okay.
So midweek, going on the road.
Right. Getting set to take on Texas State in San Marcos, who,
Salty.
yeah, always a salty team. And they're coming off of a sweep. They just got swept by Louisiana Lafayette. So they're going to be looking to get right in their own head.
Yeah, they're going to want to get right. And again, it's whenever it's one of these Texas teams, and I don't want to say lower tier, just lower tiered conference, because there's plenty of talent.
Non-power five.
Not Power Five, but it doesn't mean they're not talented and not coached well. I'm always impressed with the Sam and the Texas State and kind of the local ones, how well they're
And
coached.
Houston,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
So going on the road, just a gritty little gut check coming off a sweep. So that's an interesting one to where if you had Texas State in your house, that totally changes any sort of impact you have on RPI. But you're going on the road in a midweek,
Yep.
which I'm all for.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, some of my favorite road trips we've ever made as a baseball fan. I've done the Texas State trip. We've done both ballparks down in Houston, both at Houston and Rice. Had a chance to go on a midweek to Sam back when I was in school, and that was actually a ton of fun. Because Sam, small ballpark, it only holds about 2,000 people at absolute capacity, and when we went there last time, it was about half Aggies in the stands, and it was pretty much back and forth, standard like 203 heckling chants, and then their student section trying to push back against it because, it was just a good high energy environment, and that's what you like to see, and that's exactly what we'll see at Texas State because that's a program that is trying to improve. How they look in the eyes of people, and they've done it really well the last couple of years. I mean, they've taken games from Texas on multiple occasions. They've taken games
well,
from
yeah,
us.
but what about impressive wins?
Right.
No, they're a salty program. They are.
No question.
And so I really like I'm not nervous about this ball club. So like going on the road as opposed to hosting them, I really kind of like that they're going on the road.
I agree.
Um, and we're not having to do any sort of I would prefer that they go on the road on a Tuesday to go for Friday, Saturday, Sunday on the road, then play a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like 4 game set. I that was tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough road to hoe, man. When you just 4 straight games for college baseball players, at this point in the season, and obviously it gets tougher as the season goes on because you're more worn out. But
Right.
that's a real eye opener for these kids. So I love go on the road Tuesday, play Texas State, and then get some rest. I heard Sloss on the radio yesterday just talking about them really balancing the workouts. Obviously you've got to get working and there's things you got to get done, but you're only going to spend so much time with these kids out on the field. You don't want to wear them out. You're understanding that we are starting to get it. Like the weather's still pretty. It's still
Yeah.
early in conference play, but that's about to change real fast. Both of those. We're going to be straight into the meat grinder and it's going to start heating up and it's just going to start wearing on bodies, not just ours. And I get that, but the quality of play, this is where you start separating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so South Carolina salty, they're top 25, I believe, aren't they still?
They fell off because they lost their series to Alabama, but
Oh, that's right.
they've been in that range.
They're like fringe top 25. South
Yep.
Carolina's a great environment.
Yep.
Obviously a program with a ton of recent success.
Right.
And
And
so
and they and
I
they
love
did.
this series coming up.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a great series. And looking at, they competed extremely well against Clemson, who's our current number 2 team in the country.
Yeah.
Which, granted, big rivalry there, but even with rivalry, you're gonna play up a level, and you've got the talent. So I mean, South Carolina at Founders Park, that's been a tough road for us in the past, and I fully anticipate it being a tough road for us this weekend. Once again, that's one of those. Hey, you're going on the road to a good team. Take a game. If you can take the series, awesome.
Right.
But at this point, you want to take care of business at home, which granted, you just did. You just went 4 straight at home. Granted, you take care of business against Houston Christian and you sweep Auburn in 3 games that while all pretty tight at points, A&M ends up winning all three, and you got to feel for Auburn because that's a good baseball team, but
Yeah,
they
I was
just
about to
couldn't
say
couldn't quite
that's
get
one
over
thing.
our head.
Auburn's record is not indicative of how good that team is.
No,
I think that Auburn is going to be just fine this year, quite frankly.
yeah,
I'm not saying they're going to, basically win out or anything. I'd love for them to. That'd be great for us.
oh
But
sure,
Auburn is a hell of a lot better than their record, indicates. My thing is, and and it's weird because you can be incredibly positive and incredibly negative in the same breath about the series. The
sure,
the positive is obviously you swept them. And
right,
again, sweeping a series in the SEC, I don't care what the record is. I love it. Unless it's a team that's absolutely over.
right,
And they're already sub 500 non-conference. And you just don't really see that in the SEC.
no,
So you love the series sweep. I think if you had to start nitpicking a little bit, and again, we touched on some defensive, miscues, which we haven't seen much of this year.
right,
Our fielding has been really borderline phenomenal. So you had some miscues, and of course, miscues occur in the most inopportune times, right?
correct,
You can't ever throw the ball away at first base when you're up 9 and nobody's on. Like
right,
for some reason we can't ever do it then. No baseball. That's a baseball, right?
mm,
But you had some miscues, but my concern really is just the bullpen still gelling. We gave up a lot of runs to Auburn, and again, that's a really good lineup.
right,
But if you're just looking at the numbers on paper, there's some concern there, and I think is it warranted? I don't know. I don't know because we just have to see how it goes moving forward. But I still think that there are some question marks with the bullpen.
sure,
Um, and with every game, they'll get answered, whether that's positive or negative for specific players. The
hmm
only not question mark in the bullpen to me is obviously Aschenbeck.
yeah. Aschenbeck's look great. I mean, and Cedeo's had his moments here and there, and then other
Justin
guys.
Moss.
Yeah, Moss looked. I mean, honestly, his inning was so crucial in the game that he came out and just threw it. Did really dealt well. But you like what you see in terms of offense. I will say this, even with the struggles in the bullpen, in any moment where you've seen Auburn jump out in front, or they equalize with
Yeah, or
us,
close the gap. Yeah.
yeah, they close the gap or whatever. Our bats responded in kind, which was really nice to see. I mean, at the end of the day, obviously the most important stat is that W in the column and the number being higher than the other team. But obviously we're not seeing a lot of 2-0 wins. We're not seeing that kind of stuff right now. But yeah, I like what I'm seeing in terms of offense. Yes, we do need to shore up what's going on in the bullpen, but that's part of the gelling process. And if you can continue to win while you're still figuring it out, that's a good place to be.
Right. No, and that's the positive of it is that like
Yeah,
we're complaining about it and yet we're still winning, right?
exactly.
So like you said, these are things that we got to work out. We got to get it figured out because the later and later you get in the season, the less there is to work out, and the more it is that just is just kind of who you are, right?
Well, and not looking ahead too far, but the very last series that we will see is going to be, well, really a couple of big series late in the season. I mean, you're going to have Georgia at home, which that is a high-powered offense, and they have looked outstanding at times in terms of their ability to smash the ball around. But late in the season, when we get set to take on Arkansas, also at home,
Mhm.
that's going to be a critical series because right now, if standings hold and everything else maintains, Arkansas is currently 1 and we're number 2 in the West. So that's going to potentially be the deciding factor. Is going to be that weekend. And one thing we know about Arkansas, they can pitch.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, Arkansas can do everything. That's why
Oh
they're
yeah,
number one. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
that's why they're number one. It's there's no I don't know if there's any arguments about them being number one. I mean, I guess you could. I guess you could complain. See, the thing about Georgia is funny is like they can match the ball. Well, I mean, George Condon can match the ball. The dude's batting
right.
north of 500, which is just. I mean, that's not even video game numbers. I don't think.
Oh, it's pretty
Maybe like the
ridiculous.
old NCAA baseball video game numbers.
Right,
But Georgia's also 4-5.
right.
So one man does not a baseball team make.
No, and it's a bit of a glass cannon situation, especially if he has a bad day.
Mhm.
Like I said, it's when you have one guy on the team and everything revolves around that one player, and it doesn't quite work out for you, could be a
Yeah.
long day.
Well, and even when your lineup is kind of based around two guys, it's
Yeah.
if you can't get the lineup back around to those two guys, and we've seen this in the past with Aggie baseball,
Oh
we had a
yeah.
couple just absolute mashers, and but the rest of the lineup was so average that if we couldn't get it back around to them for them to produce, and if we did get it around back around to them and they didn't produce, because we
Right.
didn't have anybody bat north of 500 this late in the season. I mean, this guy is on a just epic trajectory for his season stats, but that's where you see look at our lineup.
Yeah.
Where do you have a break in our lineup when you're a pitcher? Like when you're on the mound, who are you glossing over? I mean, there's nobody. Hayden
Right.
Shot shaves his head, changes his walkout music, seems to be working out for him.
Right. Targach has been getting on base a little better recently, which is
Yeah,
great. We love to
yeah,
see that.
just get on base, right?
Right.
It's like Moneyball. I don't what does he do?
He gets
He
on
gets on.
base.
That's right. So if he just keeps getting on base, because he and Kent, I think, are interchangeable defensively at second.
Yeah.
Um, and so you got to see more out of that. You got to see more offensively out of the second base slot. But Teddy's putting better swings on the ball. I think obviously what he did to walk off. It's got to love the Olsen magic.
Love it.
Again, we mentioned Appel. Seems like Ali Camarillo, he jumped out to a ridiculous start, and then it seems like he was like kind of down in the dumps. He's getting it back together. Caden Sorrell is maturing before our very eyes at the
Yeah.
plate.
Oh,
Um, so I
I
mean,
mean,
just
that freshman's really looking good.
that,
He may be the unsung hero of this team when it's all
yeah.
said.
So where do you go? So that's where I think you see the difference between what you're seeing at Georgia with, again, what may be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, offensive performance we'll ever see in a season
Yeah.
occurring, and they're still sub 500 in conference play.
Right.
So you've got, and honestly, you got to have it all, right? It's you 5 tool players and 3 phase games,
Yeah.
offense, defense, and or pitching, offense, and defense. Those are your three. And if you want to break it down, there's base running and other stuff. But
Right.
um, what we have shown is that we can just outmash people.
Yep. And that's not a bad deal. But if you can really shore up that pitching by the time we're getting into the end game of the season, I mean that's really going to be that's what's going to push us over the edge. People are talking about the talent right now at A&M, and people rightly so. You're looking at a team who's currently ranked 3. I mean, you're currently ranked ahead of the team that beat you on the road after several weeks, and I think that's fairly indicative of how people feel about us. Like, yeah, they lost that series, but put them on a neutral site, A&M's winning that game. You put
Yeah.
them at Olson, A&M's winning that series. So you got to think the talent is absolutely there. It's just going to be the question as the season continues to wear on: can we really lock down that pitching and go the distance?
Well, Florida's doing themselves no favors. We talked about this. Losing a couple of midweek games is one thing. Not being able to win a midweek game is actually going to kill you. And it's
Yep.
part of this rankings, I would guess, is there's a little bit of projection to it. If you
Mhm.
can't win midweek games, then how does that play out for you being in a regional where you need more than just your Friday and Saturday pitchers, or just your Friday and then, Castiglione, or however you say it, that guy, the two-way player, pitcher,
Mhm.
Castiglione, whatever it is, you
Right.
know, if that's all you have. So again, maybe there's a little bit of projection on how they think they could fare when it comes to regional time, where you need more than just your Friday and Saturday pitcher.
Right.
You got to have more depth, and we have the depth. I think some of it is just there might be some mental blockage going on with these kids. It might just be a little bit of mental game coming out of the dugout. Maybe it's just finally truly seeing, because you can see all the fall ball you want to see, but until they start getting on the mound in real game situations, Schloss and Wiener don't know what they have.
Right.
And so these real world situations, real in game situations, their ability to see what we have in certain situations and how to kind of work with that. So again, I'm gonna trust Schloss and I'm gonna trust Max Wiener.
Hmm.
The improvement we've seen from so many of the pitchers has been unbelievable, and
No
and
doubt.
and visual. Like I don't even have to look at the stats to know they're better pitchers.
No,
I can
they've
just watch
looked
them.
better and they look more confident. And generally, after an adjustment at the mound, they tend to do a pretty good job of cleaning up the situation. And even if the pitching does falter, it's been a case where the bats have said, "All right, I'll do it myself," and they found a way to win games.
Yeah, just kind of drag it across the line if they have to.
Yep.
And I will say with the pitching, one thing I really like is how quick Max Wiener is to go out to the mound if a pitcher comes in and he's struggling.
Yes.
There's no just let him die on the vine kind of thing. He
No.
gets out there, and then if you don't perform quickly after that visit, Schloss is going to be right behind him.
Right.
Like
And
we're not
I'm
not going to
I'm all, I'm
tolerate.
all
We're not just
about it. I'm
yeah. We're
about that.
win the game. If you're
Yeah.
not performing, then you're not going to stand out there on the mound and keep digging a hole. It's so much that where when I bring in the next reliever, there's nothing he can do.
Well,
I mean,
it's like
there's been some cases where maybe there's been a pitcher left out a batter or two longer than we would have liked,
sure.
but I'm still going to trust Schloss and Max Wiener on this.
Well, and that's certainly something that even like later on with Childress, overall, that was always a complaint was that he would leave a pitcher out just a hair too long. It seemed to be the case, and that really has not been the case this year. Generally he's been pretty good on getting in and having that conversation. So we like to see that.
Not trying to dance on a grave, but
Hey, he's still alive. He's up there at
I
Nebraska. They're
I,
ranked.
I think it was a little bit more than a hair too long with most of those situations.
You're not wrong, but at the same time, like I said, hey, I will be a Rob Childress apologist until the day I die because that dude was just such a great human
No,
being to me.
oh no, I love
But
Rob. Rob was a great dude. Just sometimes those pitchers just out there too long, and then you just dig a hole. And we didn't. And unlike now, we didn't necessarily have the offense that could dig the pitching out of the hole. I mean,
right,
point
but
blank.
and even when he did, like we talk about really the best shot we ever really had under him, outside of maybe 2011. 2011 was a damn good team, but I mean 16. I mean you had all the talent in the world. We had one of the mashingest of mashing lineups that year, and just incredible talent across the entire scope of that team. But yet, at the end of the day, you ran into a team that was a bad matchup for you, and that was the end of the road. And it sucks when that happens in the playoffs.
And that's where when you look at this team just so far throughout the season, right? And it's kind of you can kind of segment the
Mm,
segment the season. You can tell I have projects going on in the back of my
you're
head.
good.
You segment the season and it's early. It's like the early preseason, right? It's all non-conference. You do like an invitational, just kind of a round robin, whether it's in Houston or Dallas, and you see what you see against who we played. And even though there were some teams from the Pac-12 that were supposed to be at least decent, you go out, you play well, and you're kind of beating up on folks. Unlike softball, where they're a little bit more willing, and there's a lot more invitationals in softball too. There are way
Right.
more of these things in softball, so you have a ton more opportunities in the like non-conference
Right.
to really show your mettle and get out there and face some competition that you're going to face, especially or closer to what you're going to face in the SEC. That's
Mhm.
harder to do in baseball. Baseball teams they don't like to travel a ton, in non-conference.
No, now on occasion you do get like we're seeing an uptick with like these smaller classics like in Frisco, Round Rock,
Yeah, a little bit.
Sugarland, and then also even just look at obviously Houston and now the new tournament they've been doing up in Arlington. You're starting to see more of that in baseball, which is good, and those serve great for all those ballparks because it's kind of a game day test run before the season really kicks off, which is
Well,
always
and they get the pro stadium feel too. They're
Mhm.
look, and I'm absolutely all for them. I'm not against them by any means, but there's still I think there's a level of hesitancy with these to go out and you know almost overextend
Mhm.
your non-conference schedule. In football, your non-conference schedule is important. You've got to get at least one in. If you can get in two non-conference that are quality opponents,
Yeah.
that's massive for your record. We saw it in basketball. We saw it with us not getting selected, a couple of years ago
Yep.
because of our non-conference slate was just completely pathetic. In baseball, when you're in the SEC, you don't really have to play anybody in the non-conference. Just if you play a bunch of nobodies, you got to beat them. That's
Yeah,
the catch.
that is the catch, right? I mean, you got to go out there and do your job if you're going to play those teams. But not being afraid. Like several years, we've gone out and gone and gotten teams like Cal State Fullerton or Long Beach,
Hmm?
Pepperdine back when they were still cruising along being decent programs. But like you've seen such a fall off on the West Coast because so much of this talent's moved off our direction.
Yeah, and yes, I'd see you're what do? You schedule Auburn for a non-conference, like what I'm saying? So it's
Mhm.
and like you said, it's tough, and especially with the Pac-12 kind of in the state that it is.
Yeah.
But it's not even that really. It's just surprising the UC system, Irvine, all those, in the Cal State, Fullerton, like you said, Pepperdine. Those were great programs to host,
Yep.
non-conference, and we just seen a decline out there, and maybe a lot of that is just the actual geographical movement of people from California to Texas, and understanding that Texas baseball at a very young level, starting very early, is just as intense as it is in California. So now, if
Hmm.
you've moved here, why would your kid go back to California to play if he can play here and either play in the Big 12 or play in the SEC? I mean, what's the point of moving them back? You
Right.
know?
And I mean, California, I mean, yeah, the heyday. I mean, just even 10 years ago, California baseball was something to behold. I mean, you had
Yeah.
great programs. I mean, how often would you see like regionals just all over the West Coast? You'd have
Oh
them
yeah.
up in like Fullerton, you would have them up at Corvallis, you would have them in Los Angeles on occasion because UCLA or somebody would be hosting, and you'd be like, all right, cool. There's some decent like hosting opportunities. But nowadays, it's
Stanford.
like,
Stanford.
Texas, the state of Texas will have two or three host
Mm-hmm.
locations. Hell, Florida had three one year because they had Florida State, Florida, and
Miami.
Stetson.
Yeah.
It's just, you have those weird deals. Like all these other schools, especially these smaller schools in the South, even they have better pedigree these days than West Coast teams. That's insane to me.
Well, and that'd be an interesting study for somebody doing like a PhD or something. Is the geographical, literally the geographical surge eastward.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of the gold rush. Everybody's coming back east,
Yeah.
and to see how that has like look at pull up all the rosters of the SEC and Big 12, and then even these non P5 schools that are kind of in the Bible Texas, all the way from Texas through the Bible Belt down to Florida,
Yeah.
kind of ACC SEC country, and find out where, like, don't tell me where they went to high school and where they're from. Find out where they grew up.
Right.
Where they spent the first 10, 12 years of their life. Was it in California? Was it in Arizona? And now their family relocated here to the South and
Yep.
Southeast. That'd be an interesting study because, like you said, it's surprising. Growing up, I thought Fullerton and even UC Irvine,
Yes.
Pepperdine. I thought that they were just going to be the titans of baseball. You just could not knock them off their perch. They would always be there, either in the end or really close to the end.
Right.
And so it's crazy to see the drop off of programs that we once thought, and again, not P5 programs, but when it came to baseball, they may as well have been.
No doubt. And you see that across baseball. I mean, great programs that you wouldn't necessarily associate as, oh, that wouldn't be a good baseball. Like TCU, obviously Jim Schlossnagle's project, but, he built TCU as a smaller program even before Big 12 days as a formidable program there at the WAC when they were still there. And
Well,
so
here's a
it's,
good question. I mean, how long has East Carolina actually been good though?
I would say honestly, the last like 5, 10 years really
Yeah,
is when they've kind of exploded.
they're no like perennial kind of we're always there team. So
Coastal
again,
Carolina,
yeah,
who
Coastal.
won a
That's a
freaking title,
Coastal's a perfect example.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
the buildup of all these programs
yeah,
and kind of the kind of, in, I want to say free fall, but the Irvine, Fullerton, Pepper, all the schools out on the West Coast, Stanford,
yeah.
USC, UCLA, like you said, Corvallis, even the Arizonas,
Yeah. Oh,
Arizona
Arizona
State
State's one of the great programs of baseball all time.
all time.
Arizona's normally like, well, at least several years ago, they were a regular in Omaha.
Yeah, so that's an interesting migration, honestly, when you kind of think about it,
Yeah.
just to where you're talking about probably in recent history. I think I read this, like there were no regionals west of like Austin or something like that.
It was weird, man.
Yeah, like everything was middle of the country and east,
Yeah.
and so it makes. I mean, don't get me wrong, it makes for some fun baseball, but it's high pressure packed situations, and that all gets back to these, the development of the bullpen, and
Yep.
not only their development, but also Schloss understanding like truly how to move the chess pieces just right. And I
Mhm.
think that's just, and again, and I realize we're a decent way in the season, but they're still playing with it. They're still figuring it out because baseball is such a situational sport, right?
Yep.
Like you've just got to know exactly who, exactly when, and exactly for how long. And
Mhm.
so, and while I think he's one of the best in the business at it, even when you make the right move, it can go wrong because that's baseball, right?
Yep. Not everything's always going to work out, but
No.
hey, you just keep moving your feet forward, and eventually it rocks and rolls.
Well, and you've got a fun challenge tonight, out in
Yes.
San Marcos. So looking forward to kind of how they respond. Because responding off a losing weekend, is probably easier than responding off of a sweep weekend.
Right. I mean, well, because when you're coming off of a sweep, I mean, you are trying to find the things that are struggling. Granted, us as fans, we can see what the what the issues were.
Oh, and they can see it too, I'm sure.
Oh, no doubt. But there's a sense of, I guess, relief. It's like, okay, we just swept these guys,
You're feeling
right?
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
you're feeling
feeling
good.
good. And so you're going to Texas State tonight, and that's not going to be an easy game. But if y'all can go out there with a good mindset and just punch them in the mouth, like we know you can. And
Right.
I remember a few years ago when Texas State came in here, granted, different situation, but Texas State was on a bit of a roll that year. They were crushing the baseball. I think it was a couple of years ago. They came in here and we blew the doors off of them. So it's just
Mhm.
it's a weird thing with baseball.
Yeah, it's your hope is that they can because coming off a loss, it's easy to want to get right back out on the diamond, right? Whether it's a
Oh yeah.
loss, whether it's a sweep, no matter what it is, the first thing you want to do is go back out and play, right?
Yep.
Coming off a win, you feel good, and you're going to go out. You're going to make sure you put your work in. This is a great opportunity to see again the mentality of this team, and they haven't they've done it right the whole season. This
Right.
is another opportunity for them to engage, lock in a situation that if Texas State were coming to Olson, maybe it'd be a little bit different. Like you kind of and not to say they're doing it intentionally, but you're just feeling good. You're riding high off a sweep. You got a home game. Gonna have the 12th man out. Gonna have bubbles. Um, but this is going on the road, locking in against a team that is no slouch, despite what happened last weekend. Playing baseball on the road in Louisiana is a weird thing, anyways.
Oh yeah.
Just about everything in Louisiana is a weird thing, so that's fair. Not weird, bad, just weird.
Just
Um,
weird.
and so the opportunity to go lock in and know, and also again, like I said, have that break before you got to go to South Carolina, so you
Yes.
can just go in and emotionally spend yourself tonight.
Yep.
You can like just go in, lock in, and just beat the brakes off of him if you can, and
Yep.
not it doesn't get that talent level doesn't always dictate the results.
No.
It's baseball, but so I think this is a wonderful opportunity to watch really kind of the grit and mentality of this team coming
Yes.
off of that fantastic weekend and heading into it's almost like a gotcha game, right?
Yep.
Like if
It is a
turn out
bit.
not paying attention, it'll bite you.
Yep.
And so yeah, I'm excited for tonight. I'm excited for both of them to
Yep.
get right for softball. It's a lock back in for baseball mentality. And again, like we said, coming off, and that was a tough series sweep for softball. You had
Yes.
two games on the ropes. Had them late and just couldn't quite finish it off.
Yep.
And that third game just left really sour taste in your mouth. So do they lock in and get angry? Do they lock in and really just try and beat the crap out of them? Or some of them just kind of beat up, beat down a little bit. So I think this will be. This is one where you got to have two TVs going, man.
I think you got two great games going on tonight about the same time. Well, so you got to get ready for those and get ready to watch them. I'm excited. What
I
one
don't want
quick?
to see Emily Kennedy tonight at all,
Yeah.
unless y'all are doing is showing a picture of her supporting her teammates. I do not want to see her unless for some reason she's supposed to throw a bullpen, and so she does it during the game.
Yeah.
But I don't want to see Emily Kennedy. In fact, I'd love to see her in like a pullover, so it looks like she's has no chance of throwing the ball.
Fully relaxed. One quick aside, just a quick little thing I saw from Texas State. I'm not sure if you saw this, but last week they announced a brand new Sunday uniform that they broke out. It's old school Southwest Texas pullovers, and they
Really,
were glorious. They were so, it's like, yeah, it's a Southwest Texas in the tail, got a big SW on the hat. I
that's
mean, straight up Redskins, man. That color
that's
scheme,
cool
it
that they're allowed
looks
to. That's cool that they're allowing them to do that, though. I mean, I would
so good.
assume they still hold the trademark. It's just that's one of those things where when a school rebrands, the last thing they want to do is retro. And
Right.
I mean, we've never seen anything like that around here.
No, never once.
Uh,
I
so
will say we do get some fun little retro things, and just as a uniform guy, I mean that's one of my favorite things on the planet is when you can take an old school look, modernize it, and make it look clean. I think that's generally the way to go about it because let's face it, a lot of the aesthetic, especially like in the '80s for baseball, that was peak aesthetic for baseball for me
uh,
personally. It was so good. So yeah, the clean pullovers at the time, and I mean, especially in college baseball, you had so many classic, in quotes, uniforms, especially right around that time. That's when the Mississippi State Western font became relevant, was really there in the 80s. Our Texas Aggies, which is a great script,
uh,
that got its start in the 80s. So I mean, it's a great aesthetic and I
brings you
love
back
it.
to Byington, man. Big Bad
Yes.
John.
Big John, man.
You know what I
Those,
would love to see come back, and I don't know. I don't even know. It might be against the rules now. I don't know. I don't pay attention to uniforms quite as much as you do, but I just can't remember the last time I saw it. I
hmm.
need the sleeveless, man.
Oh yeah. So
Oh,
vests, fun fact about vests, as of this year, I think for the first time since like the early 90s, this is the first time in the history of the MLB that there will not be a vest uniform in baseball because the Rockies retired theirs. So we are officially out of vests at the major league level, which is fine because the current major league uniforms are trash, but I'm not going to go into that.
I love the Stros uniforms.
Oh, the
Um,
uniforms, I love the look, but just the current template is bad. I mean, see-through pants, it's not good.
See, that's the thing with those Aggie scripts, the grays. Like,
Yes,
if you want to go full, like, you want to go full on old Aggie baseball, let's pull out the vests again.
I'm about it. I
I
mean,
see. And I wonder though, because this era of players, I mean, they probably never even played in that. So would it completely freak them out?
I mean, I don't know what the advantages and disadvantages are to those. I mean, they breathe a little bit, and you can wear like whatever athletic
They
shirt
look
underneath, right?
awesome. Look good,
Right.
play good, man.
Now, do yourself a favor if you're listening. At this point, go onto YouTube and look up the Reds when the Reds went sleeveless because the Reds have a bunch of old school uniforms and they, above everybody else, go ham on old school uniforms. But one of the vests they did with old school vest back in the day, and the guys did not wear the undershirts. They went full on, show off the muscles. I'm just gonna go out there and crank it because I can. I mean, they're getting like sunscreen up on the arms, the whole shebang.
I don't remember that. That's like Savannah Banana stuff.
It really was. And so yeah, you'll look up like sleeveless Cincinnati Reds. It's kind of a funny deal. So
That is some AAA stuff right
it
there.
is, but I love it.
That's hilarious. Son, we wear sleeves at this level.
So, do we though?
They tell me you can pitch. Not much of a dresser.
Yes, sir. Man, I've been trying to find time to sit down and watch that movie. I haven't seen Major League in probably 2 years. I need to sit down and watch it.
I think I've told this story, but Major League. So I grew up playing baseball before any sport, and so Major League is one of my like yes, absolutely. Major League is one of my all time favorite movies, sports or otherwise.
Oh yeah.
And it was like sixth or seventh grade. I think it was seventh grade. We had to write a letter to a celebrity.
Oh my.
Yeah, it was a project. So I wrote a letter to Charlie Sheen.
Heck yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and it kills me. I guarantee it's still somewhere in my parents' house. He sent me back an autographed picture. This was back in the days when like they actually autographed the pictures.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, I have a picture of Charlie Sheen autographed, and he like wrote it out to me. He's like, Roy, thanks so much. Blah 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 blah. Charlie Sheen.
That's
And this is
awesome.
like pre-psycho Charlie Sheen days too. So
Right.
it was
Pre
still
Tiger
okay.
Blood.
Yeah, it was still okay to think he was cool.
Like, Charlie Sheen was always cool. He's a little weird, but he's
He's just a
cool.
nut.
Yeah.
He's a complete wacko.
Oh yeah, no, no
But
question.
that's okay. That's okay.
Hey, we all have a little bit of crazy in us. It's all good. But oh man. So on other positive fun notes, we just released Why in the World out to the world. It is
Ouch.
it is doing extremely well. I mean, literally so our previous release that we had done, when we put out Marlboros at Midnight and Mrs. Lonely, both of those songs came out on Spotify, and we're doing, like I think they did 16,000 streams in a day, the first two. And I was like, okay, that's pretty decent, right? This song hit that by lunch,
Nice.
and it is just cruising along. And I mean, so much so that Whiskey Riff, great, great guys over there that do a really good job of analyzing songs at all levels. They really do cover all levels. Put it out there, and they said one of the coolest things about this song was it reminds them of the often forgotten golden era of Texas country music and sounds from bands like Six Market Boulevard and Dolly Shine. And if you're going to include our band with those two in terms of sound, I could think of worse bands to be
Yeah,
associated with.
you can be okay with that.
Those are two great bands and two bands that are no longer around, but two phenomenal bands.
Well,
So
and I get to sit here and be like, I know something you don't know because there's a song that y'all haven't put out that I have heard. So
yeah, so the self-title, well, the title track for the next record, we just got the mix back this week, along with one of our other songs for the record, and yeah, we're pretty excited for both of those songs. In particular, in particular, the title track. It's one of those. It has the feel.
I've probably hit that 16,000 stream mark already just from what you sent me. It's and I will tell you, I'm just gonna hype this. I won't, go crazy about it,
Sure,
or start tagging anybody, but
sure,
it takes a lot like I'm kind of stubborn when it comes to listening to new music, even if it's from an artist that I know and love.
sure.
This harkens back to the days when people went out and bought CDs. Like your
Mm,
band's coming out with a CD, and so you hear it, and the first thing you do is like you hit track one and you give it about 20 seconds, and you're like, okay, I think I'll come back and listen to that one. You hit track two, you're like barf. Hit track three, you're like barf, and then like automatically you only have two or three songs on an album that you like, and
right,
you'll get to the point where you just hit play on the album and you'll learn them
right.
because they're going to grow on you because they're the bands you like. But there's not a band on the planet like I don't like 100% of Led Zeppelin songs. All right.
No,
That dawned on me as I was getting out of the truck over the weekend. I had some showings and I love Led Zeppelin. Love, love, love.
sure,
And we're doing like blocks over the weekend on the radio. And I'm like jamming, driving between these properties of Led Zeppelin. They play one song and I was just like, I turned it down and zoned out. I'm like, I don't know, that's one of the ones I just don't like.
fair.
I'm not going to name it because I'm not going to be mean because it might be somebody's favorite. Um, but yeah, but just absolutely blown away. So I cannot wait for this to release for y'all. I think it's that might be the end of the podcast because then we're all just going to be these little minions and off Rob what right Rob and Carson right off into celebrity sunset and we're just stuck here and
Man,
you guys got to deal with me. And I don't know
well,
how to edit video, so it could go really poorly.
well, I guess we'll see how it all plays out. I mean, obviously, I'm excited for the song itself. I think all around, it's one of those. As a couple of guys put it to me, they said literally feels like a coup de grace early on for you guys. It has that kind of feel to it. So, for me, that's exciting because the fact that big name people, big record people, big names over in Nashville are telling us this kind of stuff, like that starts making you think, okay, this might be
Well,
real.
it makes it real. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this might actually be real. And like is we've it's the typical thing, right? You get into a band and you 6 months down the road, I'm gonna have you guys doing this, and that, right? And then you get 6 months down the road, you're still playing the same gigs, right? And then you go, oh well, hey, next year we're gonna be doing this. You get to the point where you start really asking yourself the question, is this going to do it?
You're
And
just treading water. You're not going anywhere.
right. And the beauty of this band is like at no point have we stopped. I mean, we put out our last record, Fairweather Cowboy, which in its own right is a great record. And I will stand by that record for the rest of my life because that was a fun record to record. But on that same token, it released at a point in time because of delays and everything else. It didn't release till late November. And unfortunately, when you put out music in late November, nobody's listening because it's Christmas time. So you just kind of miss out on really capitalizing on a full record of music. So now you're sitting here kind of reeling because a lot of people really lean on what they call a two album rule, which is like if one doesn't hit, the next one's got to do something.
Right.
Otherwise you just kind of go even further away in people's eyes. So, you've seen it with bands even as big as like Mumford and Sons, phenomenal band. But they put out their first two records and they were both just blow everybody out of the water, that kind of folky style that they were doing that everybody loved.
Yeah.
They shifted it up to the more kind of indie rock kind of style by the next two records. And me personally, I like both records. I like the songs on them. It was a departure for what they were doing. But notice how everybody was so hype on them 10 years ago. And then those two records came out and they're really not talked about much anymore.
Yeah, that's a really good example because I don't listen to them anymore. And
Right.
if I
And I
do,
love
and
that
if I
band.
do,
And I will still actively go listen to what they have. But you
well,
can't allow yourself to get in that situation.
I'll go back and listen to the first two albums. I won't listen to the other stuff. And not that I'm against indie rock, I just don't like them doing it. I don't like.
Right.
I
Like I said, Mumford and Sons. I mean, Little Lion Man, The Cave, I Will Wait. That's the stuff that people like from them.
mhm.
and that's why they still play those songs live. They will still break out their original setup and do those songs live because they understand that's what people are there for.
Yeah, it's kind of dance with the date that brought you kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Novel thoughts, right? You always, hey, it doesn't matter if you go to do a little window shopping as long as you're actually buying what you came there to buy a lot of the time. But we're excited for the songs for sure. I'm pumped.
Well, we got to wrap this up because
Yep.
I am a busy bee.
Yes, you're busy
But I
bee.
hope everybody had a great Easter, by the way. I
Yes.
forgot to say that at the beginning. I had a wonderful Easter weekend. It was kind of a weird combination of being really busy with work and then being able to take time off.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm kind of grateful I'm always grateful for having the business, and then I'm also grateful for being able to tell my clients I'm not working.
Yes.
But so just super busy with work right now. I'm
Mhm.
excited. I'm expanding my business. I mean, I'm literally going directly from here to an appointment. I had two yesterday. I had 8 showings on Saturday. I mean,
Yeah.
so I'm rocking and rolling. It's just getting to the time of year where people start thinking about moving. So,
Yeah.
like always, if you're going to be in the greater Brazos Valley, if you're buying or selling or just want
Yep.
to talk, feel free to shoot me a message on social media, or you can email me at just at Roy at BachRealtyGroup.com. Bach like the beer.
Yep.
But just blessed to be busy, man.
Yep.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of fun and in my personal life going on. I'm kind of a boring person because I work so much, I guess. But
Sure.
things are going well and the weather's beautiful and
Yeah.
it's hard to beat, man. Beautiful
Yep.
day in Aggieland yet again.
Yep, I'm definitely excited about that. If you guys are looking for additional, anybody looking to do some vocal training or honestly bass playing, that is something I am doing once again at musiclessons1on1.com. If you go to that website, you can actually go to the staff, go straight to my portal. It'll say Rob W on it, and you can book with me. And I will be happy to work with anybody on that. So that's exciting. One last little quick note, weather-wise today, something very interesting is happening up in Ohio. So we're having ourselves a moderate risk, strong 15 to 30% chance for tornadoes within 25 miles of a point up there. And here's the crazy part. This particular storm system looks exactly like the storm system that rolled through on April 3rd, 1974, almost 50 years ago to the day, -1,
Oof.
where we had the super outbreak. 7 F5 tornadoes that destroyed multiple towns across Ohio, Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama. I mean, just all over the place. And truly one of the craziest weather setups we'd ever seen in our lives. And the fact that we're going to have a very similar system today in Ohio, borderline poetic. But the whole region is under that watch. So, and it won't be, it's not going to be a super outbreak. It's nothing crazy, but it's just kind of a weird coincidence that kind of shook out. So,
And there's your weekly weather nerd note.
here's your weekly weather word note. All right. So, I am Rob White. This is Roy May. We are the RedAss Podcast. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Beat the hell out of everybody.
Jacob.
Gig 'em.